Outbreaks of rain again across western areas, but drier to the southeast of England to start Sunday morning. But that will soon be replaced by cloud and outbreaks of rain as this band of rain pushes its way north and eastward. So as we come into Sunday afternoon, many places seeing a pretty unsettled end to the weekend. But there will be some glimmers of sunshine just coming in to the far southwest of England and Northern Ireland later on in the day. Otherwise, temperatures holding up around 15 or 16 degrees. So through Monday, we hold on to the area of low pressure, some strong winds across the south, but also some blustery showers, heavy and possibly thundery, driest across Scotland, where we'll see some sunshine. We'll hold on to some showers on Tuesday, but generally a bit drier, and then some longer spells of rain for some of us on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening, it's 9 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight,
every second I'm wearing it, you know, that is my jihad. And if I'm outspoken for it, then I could be part of this struggle against Islamophobia.
well, as Portugal becomes the latest country to approve a burqa ban, would women in Britain be better off if we followed suit? Plus,
they're having to learn to get by on less.
How are we supposed to live on £50 a week?
And rely on each other more.
Rachel Reeves has been warned she must slash benefits to regain the trust of the markets. And nearly 1 million claimants of the Motability car scheme could be in the firing line. Also tonight,
I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do?
yes, after years of growing controversy, Prince Andrew has finally given up his royal titles. Or was he pushed? We'll find out with Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir due to be released in just 3 days. Are more damaging revelations just around the corner? And
must be a hole dug in the earth, in the ground, and she must be covered up to the half of the body.
yeah, in more shocking news, Birmingham-based Islamist clerics are sharing advice on how to Islamically stone women to death. That is here in Britain. Is it any surprise religious sectarianism has taken over Britain's second city? Also,
good morning. You all right? Have you ever wondered what you'd do if your world was destroyed?
well, it's about time, isn't it? The BBC will be forced to issue a prime-time apology to the nation as Ofcom slams their Gaza documentary as a serious breach of broadcasting guidelines. But was this simple incompetence or a sign of a deeper agenda? Joining me tonight on my panel, as ever, journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, and former Labour advisor Paul Richards. I wonder, how has Gary Neville upset again, and how's he upset his own supporters of his own football club that he co-owns? Yes, your Saturday night starts right now, but before that, let's get your news with Bethany Elsey.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom. The family of Virginia Giuffre, who accused Prince Andrew of sexually abusing her when she was a teenager, says she's been vindicated by the stripping of his royal titles. Prince Andrew says repeated headlines about him are distracting from the work of the king, but continues to deny any wrongdoing. Andrew had already stopped using his military titles over his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Virginia Giuffre took her own life earlier this year. Her memoir memoir to be released on Tuesday will say that after reaching an out-of-court settlement, Prince Andrew imposed a 1-year gagging order against her to prevent tarnishing Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee. Hamas has announced it will hand over the bodies of 2 more Israeli hostages imminently. They have so far returned 10 of the 28 deceased and all 20 living hostages. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt will remain closed until all hostages are returned home. That's despite the Palestinian embassy in Egypt announcing earlier that it would reopen on Monday, allowing Palestinians there to return home. President Donald Trump has urged Ukraine to make a deal with Russia to end the war. Volodymyr Zelensky was hoping to use the meeting at the White House to secure Tomahawk missiles and offered thousands of drones in exchange. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has confirmed another summit with Vladimir Putin will be held in Budapest, although suggested Zelensky won't be directly involved in those discussions. The Home Office says it expects to hold a meeting next week to address a ban on Israeli football fans attending a game against Aston Villa in November. It wants police to set out the extra resources needed to allow the game to go ahead safely. Birmingham Council banned Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters over safety concerns after classifying the game as high risk. It's after violence occurred during a Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi in Amsterdam last year. A new blood test could help speed up diagnosis for more than 50 types of cancer. That's according to a new study in the US, which has found the Gallery test correctly picked up a wide range of cancers at an early stage before symptoms even appear. It's also highly accurate in ruling out cancer. The test is being trialled on the NHS and could change the way screening for the disease is carried out. And Ange Postecoglou has been sacked as head coach of Nottingham Forest after less than 40 days in the position. His last match ended in a 3-0 home defeat to Chelsea, the 6th loss of his short tenure. He failed to win any of the 8 games in charge of the team. Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis left his seat midway through the match and announced Postecoglou's departure just 20 minutes after full time. The club is now on the hunt for their 3rd manager this season. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in an hour's time.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Well, the burqa is now banned in Portugal, France, Belgium, Austria, Switzerland, Denmark and Bulgaria, among others, with Italy looking set to follow in the coming months as well. Well, I think it's time we joined these progressive countries and banned the burqa, the niqab and all face coverings in the United Kingdom too. Portugal's parliament has just approved a bill prohibiting face veils worn for gender or religious reasons in public spaces. Violators face fines of up to €4,000. The legislation argues that concealing the face fosters exclusion and inferiority, particularly for women, and clashes, of course, with core Western values like liberty, equality and human dignity. And Portugal is simply joining a growing list of these European nations who see the burqa as a tool of oppression and simply incompatible with the core values of their long-living countries. This isn't limited to Western Christian majority countries, though. Even nations like Egypt, Morocco, Syria, Tunisia, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, all countries with over 90% Muslim populations, have enacted partial prohibitions driven by concerns over secularism and the need for facial recognition in the security of their countries. Across Europe, the left-wing parties have resisted these measures as tough as they can, such as the left-wing group in Portugal, who have labelled the proposed ban as xenophobic. But this is the classic hypocrisy of the left, isn't it? They claim to champion feminism and women's rights equality, but yet they defend men entering women's toilets, and they stay completely mute on the systematic oppression of women in the Middle East. And the truth is, Britain is lagging behind on this issue. In a nation where women have battled relentlessly for legal equality and only got the right to vote less than 100 years ago, let's not forget, We cannot tolerate the resurgence or the entrenchment of religious oppression on any woman in our society. It is simply un-British, isn't it? Face coverings aren't just a religious issue plaguing us, though, are they? Experts and law enforcement in the United States have warned that they erect a psychological, physiological barrier, granting wearers a sense of anonymity that emboldens crime. Well, research from the pandemic era underscored this. Masks reduce perceived detection risks, facilitating offences like street robberies and shoplifting. And in Los Angeles alone, crimes involving masked suspects surged nearly fivefold from March to October 2020 compared with 2019, with sharp rises in robberies and burglaries. Who would have thought it, eh? We've all witnessed the packs of youths prowling around the streets of Britain in ski masks. Well, I certainly have. Or those who are using those medical masks from COVID. Well, some used them as a mere fashion statement, replicating gang culture they've seen in that abysmal drill music on the internet. But others wear them to project menace, evade identification during crimes, and other, of course, threatening things. When we see the masked men show up at protests, of course, and begin causing violence, we know that they think they'll be able to get away with it because they simply aren't recognisable. That is why we keep seeing these violence at protests. We've got to stop it. The police have the power to do so. And in the case of the burqa, well, I believe that burqa and the niqab and similar oppressive garments were simply created to satisfy the historical insecurities of men who were viciously jealous of other men and wanted to prevent another man glancing at their women. None of this aligns with our British values, does it? It is profoundly and deeply un-British in every way, shape and form. As I always say, if you choose to live here, you must honour our way of life and integrate. So my message is quite simple. Take off the burqa, remove your face masks, or be prepared to leave. Or I hope you might face a large fine at the bare minimum or the full force of the law one day if we can outlaw these oppressive and threatening face coverings in Britain. Right. Let's get the thoughts of my star panel. Journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, former Labour advisor Paul Richards and former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley. Linda, you're a woman. Do you self-identify, hopefully? So, listen, I understand there's an argument about liberties here. And I want to get to that at first, because many people will say, well, actually, we shouldn't have restrictions on what people should and shouldn't wear in British public, in the public in Britain. What do you make of that argument?
Well, I think that I understand that argument, but I think the point here is one of security, where if we are introducing facial recognition or any other kind of identification, particularly in high-risk areas, I think you've got to be able to see people's faces. But you made a very good point in your intro. You said that that people who come to this country for safe haven are escaping tyrannical rule where the burqa and the niqab are enforced. And I might point out that in some countries, women who don't comply face 72 lashes or imprisonment. Now, 72 lashes, it's almost a medieval punishment, isn't it?
It's barbaric.
The fact of the matter is that I think if you look back to Masha Amini, the woman who died in police custody for refusing to cover her hair, you can tell how heinously badly these women are treated. Now, I think it's pretty OK, cover your hair. But these face coverings, the burqa is symbolic of women's oppression. It shouldn't be allowed, as the niqab is as well. So I completely agree. Portugal should ban face coverings, and so should we.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with headscarves, by the way. I'm absolutely fine with that. We have women have practiced wearing headscarves. I mean, my grandma used to go out wearing a headscarf when it was raining, right? I've got no problem with that. It's the covering of the face, Paul, that really bothers me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, our mums all wore headscarves, didn't they? You know, so that's perfectly OK thing to do. I mean, I think it's not only un-British, to pick up your monologue there, I think it's un-Islamic as well. There are millions of Muslim women who are true to their faith who do not cover their faces all over the world, and including in this country. And it's a small sect within Islam that insists on this. It's the men insisting upon it, not the women. And I think we have to be a little bit careful about the state saying what it can and can't, you know, what you can and can't wear. and the question mark will be over how do you police this? Are we going to have, police resources dedicated to arresting women for face coverings? But if we set the tone and just say, look, we think this is unnecessary, maybe there's some regulatory thing there that needs to be done. Certainly a debate needs to happen as to why women are being forced to wear these face coverings. I think that is a conversation worth having, because I think it is patriarchal. I think it is oppressive, and I think it's something that is being imposed on women, not something they want to do themselves.
Yeah, Peter, of course, we can get into the religious debate about whether or not, some of these radical Islamist ideas like the full face covering are acceptable in Britain. But I'm not just talking about them. I see these kids all the time in London now. You just go walk through any part of London, you're going to see kids with ski masks on. This makes the police's job impossible to catch them, doesn't it?
In my previous career as a police officer, generally speaking, when I came across somebody in a face covering, it meant that my hand slipped into my shoulder holster. I pulled out my Smith & Wesson, pointed it at them and went, "Armed police!" Because they were about to rob a post office van.
Yes.
Or maybe commit aggravated burglary on a jeweller's or something like that. So as you can imagine, I hate face coverings. I think they should be banned under all circumstances. I can't think of an exception whereby, unless of course we had another pandemic, they should be allowed. Get rid.
Yeah, and do you agree? So Italy is proposing a fine, Portugal's proposing a fine, Switzerland have proposed they've got a fine active now. Do you think that's a good way to deal with this?
Yeah, and if you don't pay the fine, you go to prison.
Yeah. What do you think, Linda?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I notice, I won't identify my town again, but I live in a fairly small, pretty, calm, peaceful town. But I notice more and more walking down the high street, particularly at the weekend, there are women in the niqab, not the burqa. We don't see the blue burqa quite so much in this country. I've very rarely seen it. But the niqab is to me, looks like a sinister garment that signifies oppression. And the fact that I see it fairly frequently every weekend in my little town is very, very worrying.
That is very worrying. And Paul, I pointed out there's a bit of hypocrisy on some left-wing parties here on this, because they want to champion gender equality, they want to champion feminism, but when it comes to certain cultural habits, like the niqab, which are cultural in my opinion, or at least extremist religious ideologies, which I think this is, they sort of lose their voice all of a sudden, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think people sort of tie themselves in knots for fear of causing offence or making alliances with people who they think are their friends and are not. And then they get into this sort of situation as you described. But for me, I remember discussing this with Labour ministers back in the day. It's about access to society, same as learning the language, learning English. It's about being able to access work, community, make friends from people from different backgrounds. It's allowing women to be British and be British citizens, even if they want to carry on being Muslim.
Absolutely.
And so it's access to society, and a physical barrier to that, literal barrier to that, is something that we should not approve of.
Yeah. What would you say to because I do think there's an extremist cultural value here in some communities, Peter. I think we've got past the point of where many of them will assimilate. What happens in that point where they don't want to leave Britain, but unfortunately we might ban the burqa and they might ban the niqab? What happens?
We have to hope that we've got politicians with the spine to ban it. I very much doubt we have. We've got a left-wing socialist government, and look how much they appease anything to do with Islam. Appeasement, appeasement, appeasement. And there's so many stories on a daily, weekly basis about how people, because they stand up and say, "Oh, don't do that because you'll be Islamophobic," and politicians, councillors cave in. They cave in. They appease. And what does appeasement do? It empowers people. And look what we've seen with face coverings at those despicable pro-Palestine marches, with the chanting, the calling for genocide, the calling for wiping Israel off the face of the planet, and all of that. It's about time politicians had the courage to stand up and do the right thing.
Can I just make one point? As far as I know, very briefly, there's no reference to face coverings in the Quran.
No, of course not.
There is not even direct references to head coverings. There are general references to modesty, and that is it.
That's where it's been taken out of control.
Yes.
Agreed.
Pete, just Paul, a bit of balance. Do you think Labour's kowtowing to Islam?
Certainly not, and I think on an issue like this, we would be on the side of women and women's rights, and I think absolutely.
All right, well, look, let's get moving on, because it's time for the Great British Giveaway, isn't it? Here's all the details you need for a chance to make a motorhome, and £30,000 cash, all yours.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck, everybody. And coming up, another bombshell report about Prince Andrew has dropped, and it's not going well for the disgraced prince, is it? But next.
They're having to learn to get by on less.
How are we supposed to live on £50 a week?
And rely on each other more.
Rachel Reeves has been warned she must slash benefits to regain the trust of the markets. And nearly 1 million claimants of the Motability car scheme could be in the firing line for that. We'll debate whether that's a good idea in tonight's head-to-head. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, of course. Well, Rachel Reeves has warned she can't leave welfare untouched. That's as she attempts to find billions and billions and billions of pounds worth of savings in the upcoming budget. And Motability car users could be her latest victims. Well, the Motability scheme currently provides cars to over 800,000 disabled Brits and is open to people who claim a qualifying mobility allowance. Well, most commonly, though, the personal independence payment known as PIP, that's where it comes mostly from. This costs taxpayers £2.8 billion a year and sees a portion of a claimant's disability benefits spent on a new car. In fact, 1 in every 5 new cars purchased in Britain are now accessed through the Motability scheme. But the Chancellor plans to cut an exemption which lets cars leased under the scheme avoid paying VAT or insurance premium tax, saving the she estimates up to £1 billion a year. Reports suggest she may also cut access to luxury cars like Mercedes and BMWs, just days after the Institute for Fiscal Studies warned that Britain must slash benefits to regain credibility with bond investors. So, with all of that in mind, should Rachel Reeves target Motability claimants to save the £1 billion in her budget? Well, to thrash this out, I'm joined by academic and author and self-proclaimed anarchist Dr. Lisa McKenzie and political commentator Andy Twelves. Well, Lisa, I will start with you. What do you think? Is this a scheme worth going after for the Labour government?
No, this is Labour trying to act tough. They're trying to out-reform again, aren't they? It's Rachel Reeves sort of being a tough woman, going, you know, we're going to get the disabled people again. But let's remember, last time she thought she could do that, you know, they were terrified by their own MPs. So this is not going to work. This is just a Daily Mail headline trying to act tough. Rachel from accounts, you know, she's not doing any accounts again.
Yeah, OK. Well, Andy, I'll pass it over to you, of course. You know, Rachel Reeves has got to find some welfare cuts, hasn't she?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, you know, over the last 14, 15 years of mismanagement by the Tories, you know, any Chancellor, whether it was a Reform Chancellor, a Labour Chancellor, a Lib Dem Chancellor, would have had to have come in and made some difficult decisions. I think if it is that 6% of luxury cars, you know, if you're running around...
6% out of the... Andy,
it should be 0%.
Andy
Lisa, it should be 0.
Andy Twelves, are you going to stop disabled people, people in wheelchairs, parents with disabled children, Andy Twelves, the Labour Party trade unionist, are you going to stop those people getting about?
No, because I think you can get around in a Volkswagen. You don't have to be in a BMW or a Mercedes.
Most of them aren't.
Well, that's
96%, and most of them...
Lisa, can I put it to you? There's 40,000 luxury cars, right? I listen, my grandmother suffered from multiple sclerosis. She needed it.
Exactly.
Especially when she could still move, she needed that disability benefit, and she's a genuine claimant of it. And I think the vast majority of British people will say, actually, those people, there are people who genuinely need this. However, is a luxury car necessary? Or can we not save the taxpayers some money and get a really good car that doesn't have to be a Beamer?
Perhaps it could, yeah, perhaps we could, but it is, I mean, like 6% of them. I mean, you know, 94% of the cars are just very ordinary. I mean, lots of them are Vauxhalls, actually. Cars that are made here.
Yeah,
you know, jobs for Brits.
I think this
British cars.
It's not just
British people driving those cars.
It's not just a policy in isolation, though. She's not just doing this on its own. I think she is looking at...
She's not even going to be doing this.
She's looking at trampling the wider welfare issue. She's looking at addressing unemployment, which I know you care deeply about.
I do care about unemployment.
Putting up the apprenticeship the gold standard apprenticeships up as a priority rather than university places, which I know you care passionately about.
Yeah.
It's a key part of the Labour's right to work.
Well, let's hope that some of those apprenticeships work in Vauxhall and make British cars for people.
Absolutely. I believe in investing in British industries.
Well, can I ask you as well, because, you know, it's 9 in 10 of these cars, right, these Motability cars. Mine and my grandmother's car, I remember it vividly because, goodness me, God bless her soul, she couldn't drive this car anyway because her brake, all the things had been moved. Her accelerator was like here, or where the gearbox would have been. Most of those cars, 9 out of 10 of them, aren't redesigned for mobility in mind. So they're actually just going out as they are to people. And then we've got people with food intolerances, ADHD getting Motability. That's a bit of that's passing the limit, don't you think?
It is, but do you know what? That's a very small minority of people. It's not a majority of people with food intolerance driving around in brand new Vauxhalls, is it? Let's have some perspective on this.
Yeah. Andy, can I ask you though, because look, if it's 1 in 5 new cars in Britain is a Motability car, surely by Rachel Reeves doing this, she's going to destroy the car market.
Well, I think the stat that was that nearly 1 in 5 bought outright. People don't buy cars outright, generally speaking, particularly from working class communities like ours.
But they don't own those cars.
They'll get them on a rental or they'll get them on a payment plan.
They don't own those cars.
The stat is a bit.
Sure.
Yeah, and they don't own those cars.
I don't think it's going to be destroying. I think,
point.
you know, when we're looking at, outsourcing to German markets, as we often do on cars, I think it is quite nice that there's a bit of state subsidy and a bit of state intervention with the car market. To be honest, I don't think she is destroying the car market.
Do you think she's going to get away with this though? Because I mean, of course, her backbenchers are not happy about benefits cuts, are they? They think we should be taxing the wealthy in this country.
Well, I don't think the two should be done in isolation. I think we should be clamping down on, those luxury cars. You shouldn't be going around on a state-subsidised luxury car. We should be going after those people that aren't paying the taxes, that aren't paying the workers, that aren't, looking out for the interests of this country. I think
sounded a bit Blair right over there, isn't it? It sounded a bit Tony Blair over here.
Well, you know what?
Lisa, should we just look after people, right? Should we just not be looking at... I mean, many people would say, actually, do you know what? This is a drop in the ocean. We've got £40 billion potentially of a black hole. It's now a supermassive black hole that needs to be saved. Surely we just need to have more radical cuts than this. Or not cut it at all, Matt.
It's not... I don't even think it's about cuts. It's about looking at our economy as a whole. And this, what we are looking at with the Motability scheme, most of them are British cars. And, that's where we need a British manufacturing base. So, we need to be looking at this in the round, trying to get a Daily Mail headline on the backs of disabled people. This is not right.
Andy, Tony Blair's announced that he is backing income tax cuts. Do you think Keir Starmer should listen to him?
No, I don't think so. I think the only reason you'd listen to Tony Blair is if, Satan wasn't available. I don't think we should be listening to him on much at all.
Well, what about digital ID? He seems to be playing on the trampoline with Tony Blair on that one, doesn't he?
I think digital ID, or the way that it's going to be presented at the minute, is more of a digital right to work check. Which
there was a protest. There was a protest today in Whitehall actually against digital ID. Yes.
Very big protest. I'm sad. I was actually hoping to be there, but I couldn't get there unfortunately today.
I was there. Yeah. Bumped into Zach Polanski doing something else.
What do you make of him?
Oh, God. What do I make of him? Rasputin.
Do you like him, Andy?
I think it's refreshing to have a bit of popular...
Get off the fence. Right, listen, we've got to leave it there. Thank you both for a very good-hearted debate and discussion here, so we love at GB News. Coming up, despite new legislation designed to protect free speech at British universities, it seems plenty of them are paying no attention to it whatsoever. We'll be joined by an insider to reveal all. But next...
I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do?
Has Prince Andrew tried to use the Metropolitan Police to help smear Virginia Giuffre? Does this story ever end? This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The best place to be across the Mediterranean at the moment is Italy. A lot of fine weather following some wet conditions earlier in the week. That wet weather now moving into Greece, and another spell of rain on the way for parts of Portugal, northwest Spain as well. A damp spell here, but with southwesterly winds, temperatures actually above average. And then this gap in systems through the central part of the Mediterranean. Plenty of sunshine through Italy. Rain clouds clearing into Greece. Very wet indeed for Athens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, low pressure is returning, bringing outbreaks of rain and stronger winds, followed by blustery showers as we go through tomorrow and into the new week. So we lose this area of our high pressure that's moving its way eastwards, replaced by low pressure out to the west. So back to the rest of this evening. The clearest skies and holding on to the driest conditions across eastern areas. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain, heaviest and most persistent, moving in from the west, especially across Northern Ireland and the far southwest into Devon and Cornwall. Otherwise, with the strong winds, the cloud, the outbreaks of rain, it is going to be a mild start to Sunday morning. So having a look at Sunday morning across Scotland, that's where we hold on to some glimmers of brightness first thing across the far north, but out to the west, that's where we're already seeing outbreaks of rain. Now, the heaviest rain is going to be across Northern Ireland, most persistent here, especially to the south and east. That's where there is a yellow Met Office warning, where we could see some localised flooding in places. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain again across western areas, but drier to the southeast of England to start Sunday morning. But that will soon be replaced by cloud and outbreaks of rain as this band of rain pushes its way north and eastward. So as we come into Sunday afternoon, many places seeing a pretty unsettled end to the weekend. But there will be some glimmers of sunshine just coming in to the far southwest of England and Northern Ireland later on in the day. Otherwise, temperatures holding up around 15 or 16 degrees. So through Monday, we hold on to the area of low pressure, some strong winds across the south, but also some blustery showers, heavy and possibly thundery, driest across Scotland, where we'll see some sunshine. We'll hold on to some showers on Tuesday, but generally a bit drier, and then some longer spells of rain for some of us on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, the news just doesn't get any better for the embroiled Prince Andrew. After giving up his royal titles yesterday in disgrace, tonight it gets worse. The Mail on Sunday is now reporting the Met Police is potentially embroiled in the scandal. Prince Andrew allegedly asked his taxpayer-funded Met bodyguard to investigate Virginia Giuffre and dig up information. Shocking stuff. GB News, of course, have reached out to the Met Police, who have declined to comment. We've also reached out to Prince Andrew, who has not replied. Perhaps his emails aren't working at the moment. We are now joined by the royal historian and co-editor of Burke's Peerage, World Orders of Knighthood, Rafe Heidelman-Koo, and Peter Blexley back in the studio to talk about that Met story. But we'll come to that in just a second, Peter, because, Rafe, I want to ask you, this is such a massive story for this country, because the royal family is an institution that's lasted almost 1,000 years. We're about to celebrate it in 2066, and of course they've survived worse than this before. But the implications at this moment in time for Prince Andrew and what that means for the royal family are quite severe. British people are wondering, what am I paying for this man? And how can the royal family recover from this?
Well, as you've seen, look, this new Mail on Sunday story breaking today proves that Prince Andrew, if you're a journalist or a tabloid journalist, is the gift that keeps on giving, which is great for people in the media. It's a nightmare for the royal family. And in the royal family, you can understand the frustration and the despair in the royal household. You know, just as soon as you think you've finally closed the door on the Prince Andrew saga, it flings open again, and there's yet more. And we've had in short succession, just in the last few weeks, you know, we've found out that perhaps he was not telling the truth about when he last saw saw Jeffrey Epstein or last communicated with him. He said he wanted to play again soon with him. We've got the memoirs of Virginia Giuffre coming out very soon, which are further going to shed light on all sorts of things. And also, of course, he's even got himself linked to the Chinese spy scandal enveloping the Labour government, having met with this Chinese spy master, who was the same character who met with one of the people who was charged with the spying thing. So it's only natural, I think, that the royal family need to create as much distance as possible. We're told that Prince Andrew has willingly decided to give up these titles. Of course, we know full well this came by order of the King in consultation with Prince William. It should be said, though, that he hasn't lost these titles. He still remains His Royal Highness. He still remains the Duke of York, Earl of Inverness, Baron Killie, Knight of the Garter and the Royal Victorian Order. So he still could actually be further humiliated, and there could be a further step if more stories like this come out, where, as opposed to just simply not using the titles, he could suffer the indignity of being formally stripped, something that normally happens only to people who've committed treason or have fought for enemy countries.
Well, indeed, and as you said, this memoir, Virginia Giuffre's memoir, is going to be coming out very soon, so I suspect there'll be more on that. I speak to journalists like Daphne Barrack, who have, of course, been working intensely on this story, and she feels there's more to come. I'm sure she knows there is. But, Peter, I just want to come to you very briefly about this part of the Met being allegedly embroiled in it. Of course, the story is that Prince Andrew used his Met bodyguard to investigate, allegedly, Virginia Giuffre. How damaging would this be if the Met are found to be embroiled in this?
Well, the facts as laid out by the headline in the newspaper, and we'd need to get behind that headline and be made privy to a lot more detail. If those facts as the headline lays them out, it would appear that there has been a conspiracy to commit misconduct in public office, insomuch as that if Prince Andrew did ask a close protection officer to access, say, for example, public systems to see if they could obtain any information, that would fit within that kind of context.
Indeed. And how would the Met release this to the public? Would this be some sort of investigation that would have to be opened and then the public might find out that way? What sort of processes would have to go into it?
Every keystroke leaves a trace, but of course that's depending on how long ago the systems are accessed, if they're still maintained, if they haven't been sent to the bottom of an ocean, for example. So, if there is a possibility that any such databases can be debriefed and evidence can be gathered, then I'm sure the pressure on the Met will be huge to try and do that.
Indeed. Rafe, I want to come back to you about Prince Andrew himself, because, of course, he still has Royal Lodge. What does that mean, first of all, for people who obviously aren't aware of it? And what would it take for him to not have Royal Lodge anymore? I think many people will be asking.
Well, Royal Lodge is a grand property on the Windsor estate, 30 rooms. It was formerly the home of George VI and the Queen Mother when they were Duke and Duchess of York. It's where the young Princess Margaret Elizabeth lived for a little bit. He's got a very long lease on that property going into the 2070s, so he has every legal right to live there. The King, of course, wants to move him out into perhaps Frogmore Cottage, which was vacated by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, far smaller, doesn't require any security because it's already within the royal compounds. So the King has cut off all the funding for Royal Lodge, the security and the Prince Andrew's allowance. Where Prince Andrew is securing the money to carry on living there, to pay for his security, his lease also requires him to look after the building. That costs millions. We don't know about that. The best thing for the royal family would be if Prince Andrew now follows the example of his great uncle, the Duke of Windsor, who lived his life in exile in France. We know that Sarah Ferguson loves Switzerland. They've had properties there before, perhaps a future in Switzerland. He even has use of a palace in the UAE, given to him by the royal family there whenever he should need it, the royal family of the UAE. So there are options for him, but I think, a period in the wilderness or a decent honourable exile would be the best path of action.
Is there a danger, though, given his roles in government before as an ambassador and many other things, that he, of course, he would be privy to many state secrets, I presume, given his position in the royal family. Is it dangerous if we actually push him out of the United Kingdom? Could he sort of chatterbox away to our enemy states, perhaps? I mean, we've seen, as you've correctly noted, the Chinese tried to get close to the man. Is he sort of a bit of a national security risk at this point?
Well, there's a question around his funding and his financing. We know that he, and certainly also Sarah Ferguson, enjoy the pleasures of life, and there have been questions raised in the past when he was a UK Trade Commissioner in terms of he was accepting great gifts. He was also organising meetings, allegedly, for some of his business associates. So questions do arise around all of that. But, this was a man who served his country very well in the Falklands War. He was willing to lay down his life for Queen and country then. I say now is the time when he has to understand the interest of the monarchy comes first. He needs to make a similar sacrifice and put king and country before his own ambitions.
Do you think there's a fair criticism that people are saying that the monarchy are actually behind on this, that they should have anticipated the story was coming, they should have, many people will say they probably knew this story was coming and it was going to get worse, and they should have acted sooner before the public outrage burst open? I think they've done enough. I mean, I think the king has taken much more draconian steps towards his brother than Queen Elizabeth II did, because we know Prince Andrew was a beloved son of hers. We know Prince William, of course, has a very frosty relationship with his uncle, and certainly will be pushing to take even more drastic action if it's needed. And if Prince Andrew is still alive when Prince William becomes King William, well, then I think you will certainly see an even harder stance being taken. Indeed. And Peter, just a final word on this Metropolitan Police part of the story. Of course, we'll wait for more information. I don't want to speculate too much because the police do a fantastic job. But it is hard looking after a royal family member because they are commanding. They have got great stature. Do you think that it's reasonable to ask public servants to really behave themselves and not carry out orders pushed by someone as senior as Prince Andrew? You know, could it ask the question of this balancing act that the police have to find?
The detectives that protect royalty and the most senior politicians, the plainclothes one, are renowned for being absolute paragons of discretion. There's never been a kiss and tell book from somebody who was significant in that role. Minor players have tried to make a fortune, but nobody significant has ever gone down that route. The uniform branch of protecting them has been a much more leaky bucket with a much more checkered past. It will be interesting to see if Prince Andrew approached a police officer, who it was, if that officer wants to tell the truth, and perhaps is there a wider conspiracy? Yeah, indeed, that will be very interesting, and perhaps it could just be the case that that officer turned around and said, no, I'm not doing it, right? So we'll wait and see. We'll pass judgment when we know all the information. Rafe, Peter, thank you both very much for joining me on this segment. But coming up, Birmingham-based Islamist clerics are sharing advice on how to Islamically stone women to death. Is it any surprise religious sectarianism has taken over Britain's second largest city? But next, despite new legislation designed to protect free speech at British universities, seems plenty of them are paying no attention to it whatsoever. We'll be joined by an insider who is going to reveal all. I'll see you in 2.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong Tonight. Of course, the battle for free speech in Britain's universities has only just begun. That's the warning from a leading University of Exeter academic, Edward Skidelsky. His role as the director of the Committee for Academic Freedom, Skidelsky is already receiving multiple reports of universities completely disregarding the Higher Education Act, which only recently came into force. This was intended to strengthen universities' legal duties to protect free speech on campuses and grant the Office for Students new powers to enforce them. Well, unsurprisingly, the breaches tend to fall under familiar banners: equality, diversity and inclusion, decolonising the curriculum and trans inclusion. So, do Britain's universities have a serious free speech issue to resolve? Well, I'm delighted to welcome that author of the article on my show tonight, Director of the Committee for Academic Freedom and Lecturer in Philosophy at the University of Exeter, Edward Skidelsky. Edward, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Very worrying. We have seen, and we've reported multiple breaches of free speech matters here on GB News from way back when, even when the Tories were in government. Of course, they were trying to strengthen free speech laws at universities, particularly because of the threat of China. But perhaps you can give us some insight before we get into all of that as to what you found so far.
Yes, so as you rightly say, the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Act was passed by the last government. It was due to come into force last year, but then Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, suddenly announced that it was going to be suspended indefinitely. There was a huge kickback from academics. We at the Committee for Academic Freedom organised a letter of over 650 academics protesting her decision. So finally, she did bring the main provisions into force this August. So universities now have a duty to protect and promote free speech on campus. Unfortunately, the really crucial part of the Act, which is a complaint scheme, which allows academics to bring complaints to the Office of Students if their free speech rights have been violated, that hasn't yet been brought into force, but it's promised that it will be soon. So until then, one can write about it in the press, but there's not much you can do legally to enforce free speech rights in university.
Well, of course, part of the issue with free speech at universities is this self-censorship. I believe you spoke about this as well, Edward. This is a very difficult thing to measure because, of course, in my opinion, when you look at some parts of the curriculum, I had a parent on here from Wales the other day, and he was telling me about his kid and some of the books they've been forced to read and read out in front of other students, basically claiming that white people are guilty of being colonisers and should apologise to black people. This perhaps is maybe a form of self-censorship in the sense that the kids are taught to not have specific values from a young age. How do we get that out there? How do we talk about that more openly? Because it seems to me there might be some slight brainwashing happening in Britain.
Yeah, it's a big issue. The trouble is these theories, critical race theory, etc., they're being taught at universities not just as theories that some people hold, but you can disagree with if you want. They're being taught as established fact. And young people are getting the impression that to disagree with them is heresy. And it's very hard to stand up against that if your professor, who's also marking your essays, is pushing this. So It's very difficult to enforce. You have to try and change the culture in the universities in some way, get more intellectual diversity, get more conservative academics. They're very much left-wing monopolies at the moment, most of them.
Well, indeed. I don't see how equality, diversity and inclusion can coexist with free speech, frankly. I just don't think the two are compatible. But I want to talk to you about China. This word China we've been saying a lot lately, haven't we? Because, of course, the government is embroiled in its own scandal on this. But, of course, one of the big concerns, at least we spoke about this quite a lot 18 months ago under the last government, was that Chinese investors are buying up, or at least ploughing millions of pounds into our universities across the country, and that is then giving them undue influence on the curriculums of things that are taught in the United Kingdom. Is this a growing concern that we're being influenced by the CCP here in the United Kingdom?
I think the main concern comes not so much from investors, but from the fact that a lot of Chinese students are studying in UK universities, and they do spy on each other. They report on what other Chinese students are saying to the Chinese embassy, and it's therefore very difficult to teach certain topics. Anything that's politically sensitive is just pretty much a no-go area. So that's a real problem. And we know of lecturers who've been stripped of their teaching because they've said things that have upset Chinese students.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers, Edward. What can we do and what can governments do? Is there anything realistically, no matter how many laws we put out, is there anything realistically we can do to change this?
Well, I think once the complaint scheme that I mentioned comes into force, that will make a big difference, because then universities really will have to sit up and pay attention, which they're not doing at the moment. And then I think we need more private investors. We need alternative sources of funding so as to break this woke monopoly that exists in a lot of UK universities.
Indeed.
And that is starting to happen now.
Edward Skidelsky, thank you so much for joining me on this very, very important topic. We'll keep talking about it. Thanks for joining me on the show. Well, coming up, the BBC will be forced to issue a prime-time apology to the nation as Ofcom slams their Gaza documentary as a serious breach of broadcasting guidelines. But was this simple incompetence or the sign of a deeper agenda? But next...
must be a hole dug in the earth, in the ground, and she must be covered up to the half of the body.
How bad is Islamist sectarianism in Britain? Is it taking over massive cities in our country? That'll be next. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight. Don't go anywhere.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, low pressure is returning, bringing outbreaks of rain and stronger winds, followed by blustery showers as we go through tomorrow and into the new week. So we lose this area of our high pressure that's moving its way eastwards, replaced by low pressure out to the west. So back to the rest of this evening. The clearest skies and holding on to the driest conditions across eastern areas. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain, heaviest and most persistent, moving in from the west, especially across Northern Ireland and the far southwest into Devon and Cornwall. Otherwise, with the strong winds, the cloud, the outbreaks of rain, it is going to be a mild start to Sunday morning. So having a look at Sunday morning across Scotland, that's where we hold on to some glimmers of brightness first thing across the far north, but out to the west, that's where we're already seeing outbreaks of rain. Now, the heaviest rain is going to be across Northern Ireland, most persistent here, especially to the south and east. That's where there is a yellow Met Office warning, where we could see some localised flooding in places. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain again across western areas, but drier to the southeast of England to start Sunday morning. But that will soon be replaced by cloud and outbreaks of rain as this band of rain pushes its way north and eastward. So as we come into Sunday afternoon, many places seeing a pretty unsettled end to the weekend. But there will be some glimmers of sunshine just coming in to the far southwest of England and Northern Ireland later on in the day. Otherwise, temperatures holding up around 15 or 16 degrees. So through Monday, we hold on to the area of low pressure, some strong winds across the south, but also some blustery showers, heavy and possibly thundery, driest across Scotland, where we'll see some sunshine. We'll hold on to some showers on Tuesday, but generally a bit drier, and then some longer spells of rain for some of us on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good evening, it's 10 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight,
there must be a hole dug in the earth, in the ground, and she must be covered up to the half of the body.
yes, Birmingham-based Islamist clerics are sharing advice on how to Islamically stone women to death. Is it any surprise religious sectarianism has taken over Britain's second largest city? Plus...
Morning. You all right? Have you ever wondered what you'd do if your world was destroyed?
The BBC will be forced to issue a prime-time apology to the nation as Ofcom slams their Gaza documentary as a serious breach of broadcasting guidelines. But was this simple incompetence or the sign of a deeper agenda? And...
I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do?
Yes, it's more trouble for Randy Andy as he dominates the headlines for a second day in a row. From a second Met Police investigation to Prince William's plans to punish him further, we got all of that. Because joining me tonight, we've got journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, former Labour Party advisor Paul Richards, and former Met Police detective Peter Blexley. And how has Gary Neville upset supporters of the football club he co-owns? Yes, your Saturday evening is just getting started, but first let's get your news with Bethany Elsey.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 10 o'clock. It's reported the Prince of Wales is not satisfied with the outcome of Prince Andrew no longer using his royal titles and that he'll take a more ruthless approach, potentially banning him from his future coronation. The Sunday Times reports Prince William was consulted on the decision that led Andrew to be stripped of his dukedom after a series of scandals related to his friendship with the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It added that William will also ban Andrew's ex-wife Sarah Ferguson from royal events, but their daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, will still be welcome at family and official gatherings. Kensington Palace has declined to comment. Hamas has announced it will hand over the bodies of 2 more Israeli hostages tonight. They have so far returned all 20 living hostages, but just 10 of the 28 deceased, claiming they're struggling to locate bodies under rubble. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt will remain closed until all hostages are returned home. More than 2,500 demonstrations are being held across the US to express opposition to Donald Trump's policies. Organisers of the No Kings protests expected millions of people to turn out at the events to challenge what they see as the president's authoritarian tendencies. Republicans have described the rallies as anti-American. The Governor of the Bank of England is warning Brexit will have a negative impact on the UK's economic growth for the foreseeable future. Andrew Bailey blamed a decline in the UK's potential growth rate from 2.5 to 1.5% over the past 15 years on an ageing population, trade restrictions and post-Brexit economic policies. Speaking at an international banking seminar, Mr Bailey said he'd been careful not to take a position on Brexit thus far, but when asked what the impact is, the truth is negative. He did, however, add that the economy is likely to find a balance again in the longer term. Ange Postecoglou has been sacked as head coach of Nottingham Forest after less than 40 days in the position. His last match ended in a 3-0 home defeat to Chelsea, the 6th loss of his short tenure. He failed to win any of the 8 games in charge of the team. Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis is on the hunt for the club's 3rd manager of the season. And 2 British women have become the first all-female rowing crew to travel 8,000 miles across the Pacific, non-stop and unsupported. Jess Rowe and Miriam Payne arrived on Australia's east coast this morning after a gruelling 6-month journey from Peru. They'll speak to GB News tomorrow morning on Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. You're up to date. I'll have more for you at 11 o'clock.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
We have a serious problem with rising Islamist sectarianism in the UK, and it's about time we started saying it as it is.
Alaikum. Hope you well, inshallah. She's not going to be in the video, but she's going to have her say with this whiteboard that I bought her. But why is the default that the woman is innocent and the man is always guilty? Okay, that's something my wife wants to say. Salama probably had enough as women give a lot of chances, has 0 tolerance now. Okay, this is why I want you here. Yeah, it's very important for you to be here.
Yes, that is a Muslim preacher with over 1 million followers on YouTube. He's of Turkish descent, born in London. He was only letting his wife there communicate through a whiteboard. And what do you make of this as well?
Her, that she is punished and she is stoned to death. And according to the Sharia again, when it comes to women, there must be a hole dug in the earth, in the ground, and she must be covered up to the half of the body, so that her satar does not appear.
That's Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham, just a few miles from Villa Park. And an imam there preaching how to stone a woman to death for adultery. No arrests, by the way, no bans on sermons, no safety concerns over women's rights there. But God forbid Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters wave a scarf and suddenly the police will have to descend to protect us from these radical Israeli extremists. That's what we're being told. This is two-tier Britain, isn't it? Islamist sectarianism gets a pass while Jews get the boot for simply existing and wanting to watch a football game. West Midlands Police, their force, have openly declared they clearly cannot keep Jewish fans safe from the hatred of successive governments that have allowed to boil over in Britain since October the 7th. We see them weekly, don't we? We see the protests weekly. Their answer, instead, has been to ban Jewish fans from being allowed to attend their football match. And I think this is exceptionally revealing as to how far we have kowtowed to the rising Islamist and anti-Semitic mob in our country. Do you remember Amsterdam last November?
Where are you from? Where are you from? Say huh? Привет, спасибо. Passport. Where are you from?
Yeah, Maccabi fans were hunted down on the streets by gangs asking to see Jewish Israeli passports just hundreds of yards away from the house of Anne Frank, before, in some cases, unleashing violence upon them. Some of these thugs had pre-organised a WhatsApp group that was called Jew Hunt. That was revealed by The Telegraph with messages saying this: tomorrow after the game at night, part 2 of the Jew Hunt. And tomorrow we will work them. It's shocking, isn't it? Well, it's none other than Birmingham Council who are behind this football ban, of course. The same council, I think, is rotten with prejudice. Joanne Roney, the Birmingham City Council's managing director, was allegedly caught on tape calling a Jewish property agent a massive Jewish B-end. You can fill in the gaps there, while plotting to block the fans, of course, from attending. An accusation, by the way, she and the council do deny. She's still in her job. By the way, there's been no investigation, but I'm sure we'll hear more. Meanwhile, independent pro-Gaza MPs are celebrating Jewish fans from being banned from the match. Far-left MP Zara Sultana tweeted her jubilation at the news of the ban, as if keeping Jewish fans off British soil is some kind of victory or of some twisted justice in her mind. Ayub Khan, MP for Birmingham Perry Barr, crowed that the ban sends a strong signal, thanking everyone who had signed his petition. And actually, I agree with Ayub Khan. I think it does send a strong signal. It sends a signal that Birmingham has fallen into the hands of sectarian Islamism. These elected politicians cheer segregation based on faith and nationality, but scream Islamophobia where they get an ounce of criticism aimed at the failed cultural practices of many communities across the country, whilst also going on to praise the successes of integration whenever the narrative suits them. It is ridiculous, isn't it? It's nuts. Well, I guess integration doesn't include Israeli Jews in their version of Britain. We have let this extremism spread. Mosques incubating hate, MPs seemingly fanning the flames of sectarianism. It's not pro-Palestine passion, isn't it? It is becoming raw anti-Semitism, whispering Jews aren't welcome in Britain. They should overturn the ban on Maccabi fans, yes, but more importantly, we need to start rooting out the rot festering in our country. Prosecute the hate-preaching imams. Sack the bigots. Call out to the MPs celebrating this ridiculous exclusion. We cannot all idly sit by while this unabashed anti-Semitism continues to thrive in our country, whilst also turning a blind eye to the rise of Islamist extremism because a few bigoted lefties say it's Islamophobic. Now, let's get the thoughts of my panel. Journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley and former Labour advisor Paul Richards. Linda, I just want to go back a second before we get onto the Maccabi situation, because I showed a couple of clips at the front there. The first was a British man born here, of Turkish descent. His wife was sitting off screen, being told she's allowed to be in the video, of course fully covered, but has to communicate with him through a whiteboard. What does that tell us about the radicalisation of young men in this country?
It tells us that we have a very, very serious problem. I mean, we live in a country, you know, I'm a woman, I have a young daughter. Women in this country have fought since the suffragettes for equality, for the vote. It took many decades and years to gain equality, equality of status in the workplace, equality of money. And to have to sit and listen to that man treat his wife in that demeaning way, and then we have to listen to an imam telling us how a woman should be stoned. I mean, that is unforgivable. I can remember the last time a woman was stoned in Afghanistan. I think it was less than 10 years ago. Stoned to death in the village square after she was wrongly accused of quite a minor crime. And that has now been imported into this country, and young men have been radicalised, they've been educated about this kind of thing. It's absolutely extraordinary that we allow this to go on. And what I want to know is, why isn't he prosecuted for hate speech?
Yeah.
It's obvious it's hate speech.
Yeah, I totally agree, Peter, because this is terrifying for me. This is terrifying to see the direction our country is going in. I mean, we've decided that Jewish fans and Israeli Jewish fans are not safe here. But this imam is still preaching, as far as I'm aware. He's not been arrested. He's still free to preach what I would call extreme... I mean, I think it's not extreme to say this is extremism in our country. It's starting to become very plain to me that there seems to be a sort of infiltration by these radical people into our deepest part of our institutions.
In 1961, there were 21,000 Muslims in the UK. There's now nearly 4 million, let alone the examples you've shown here tonight. If people wanted to jump on my X account, you'll see other Islamist preachers spouting vile, repugnant dross. There are many people who have come here to follow the faith of Islam, and they are not here to integrate. They are here to take over. And there are many readily available clips of significant Muslim preachers saying this in Europe. They are here to take over. And when they have sufficient numbers, that is exactly what they want to do. Of course, I'm not saying that is the view and the desires of each and every Muslim, but significant, prominent people want to do this. And as long as they want to do it, and as long as they've got a platform, and as long as they've got influence, it's a very real threat that we need to be aware of, because if it's not tackled, we are quite simply sleepwalking our way into a holy war on the shores of the UK.
Paul, I'll come straight to you, because this imam, of course, is quoting religious scripture. And this is perhaps where the issue lies for us, because we are having to bend and work around, of course, the right to be able to preach religious scripture. Is there an issue with our laws?
Well, I think there is a rising tide of anti-Semitism that needs to be tackled. I think we need to support the reform movements within the different Islamic denominations. I mean, there are Sufi Muslims, there are Ahmadiyya Muslims, there are women's groups within Islam who would utterly oppose this just as surely as we would. So there are those reformist, modernising voices within the vast religion of Islam. But the fact that most British Jews have contemplated fleeing the country, that many British Jews have a suitcase packed by the front door, you know, for fear of pogrom, and the fact that this the case now of Aston Villa, you know, I think the full weight of the government now has to be about allowing those fans to come unmolested to watch the game and go home in safety, because the whole of our country now is under the view of the world saying, can you not protect a small number, a few hundred people, because they're Jewish? It reminds me a little bit of when that little girl was trying to get to school in Arkansas after the Americans had brought in the Race Relations Act, the Civil Rights Act.
Yes.
You know, the President deployed the National Guard and made sure that the hate mobs could not stop her walking down that road to go to school. Now, I think it's a similar case now. We have to deploy not just mutual aid of other police forces, but if necessary, whatever it takes to guarantee the safety.
Very briefly, if you don't mind, because there's a lot of criticism thrown at Labour. A lot of criticism thrown at Labour.
But none of the people... hang on,
just hear me out, because I want you to respond, because a lot of people will say, actually, Labour has bent over backwards for some of these communities. They've bent over backwards. You've seen Angela Rayner out campaigning in mosques or communities of just men in the room in many cases. And so there'll be a lot of criticism thrown at Labour. Is that fair?
Well, I would say none of the politicians you've cited are Labour. They're all people who are very much anti-Labour. Yes, Zara Sultana is somebody we booted out. Keir Starmer has kicked out most of the anti-Semites. Many of them have found homes in other political parties. Other political parties have seen their memberships spike.
Allegedly knew that this football ban was going ahead.
Well, I think we will see in the next few days quite strong action on this because, like I say, the government is, under the spotlight now. The nation is under spotlight. We cannot have this ban to rest. And I think those that have called for it need to be called out as well and asking what the hell were you thinking?
Briefly from yourself, Linda, are all political parties to blame here? Do the Tories not do enough? Did Labour just kowtowed over to Islamist extremism? What do you think?
I think that Labour have done more kowtowing than Conservatives, but you can't rule out that Conservatives have behaved as well. I mean, we live in an era of performative politics, and people have done far too much virtue signalling on this subject. We need to take this very seriously. Just very briefly, I worked for teaching contextualised English to an Afghan charity, just for a few months. It was departure. But during that time, we had a lot of support, a lot of money from Comic Relief to fund an Afghan girls football team. The local imam in the local mosque went ballistic when we posted pictures of the girls in a football strip. In a football strip with money donated from the British public to fund the team, and that's a problem.
Peter, in a few words, last word to you, in a few words, what can we do about this and what should we do?
Stop it or it's war.
That's it, there you go. There you go, you had it there from Peter Blexley. And a bit of a U-turn here, time for the Great British Giveaway. Here's all the details you need for a chance to make a motorhome and £30,000 cash all yours.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck, everybody. Coming up, how was Gary Neville upsetting the supporters of a football club he co-owns? But first...
Morning. You all right? Have you ever wondered what you'd do if your world was destroyed?
Yes, the BBC will be forced to issue a prime-time apology to the nation as Ofcom slams their infamous Gaza documentary as a serious breach of broadcasting guidelines. But was this incompetence or is it a deeper agenda within the institution itself? This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
A day for us today, Penny.
Yeah.
With losing our friend, Mr. John Stapleton, totally unexpectedly. I mean, of course, we knew he was ill.
Yes,
but
we didn't know he was
We
ill.
didn't know he was about to die.
Well, no. When he came in, we came in to the studio, and the three of us kind of were reunited.
Just a month ago.
Just a month ago, exactly. And yesterday, the lovely thing was that I had so many texts from people who you'd recognise as well from GMTV days, other people as well. Everybody saying what a gent he was and how kind and, you know, from my point of view, the reason he stayed a friend, you know, obviously, you know, you have these, you call them screen husbands, screen wives, but the reason he stayed a friend was because he was genuinely funny. He made me laugh a lot, all the time. And, in fact, I just recently did a little podcast with him. We were talking about things that he hated and everything, and he was talking about he hated people driving around with cars with their windows open and really loud music.
Yeah.
And he was just going, you know, he said, I just shout at them, can you turn it up a bit? There's somebody in Australia who can't quite hear the words. So you never expect it, you never want it. The people you love, you want to live forever. That's it.
That's very well said, yeah. I obviously was very friendly. He was, when we say a gentleman, he was gentle. He was a gentle soul. And then he became very nasty. It was very difficult to like and get on with. It was just you know, when Manchester United started to decline in terms of superiority, and he became so... He became so arrogant.
No, he really did
Oh, he was unbearable.
He so didn't.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Well, of course, the BBC have committed a serious breach of broadcasting rules by failing to disclose that the narrator of a documentary about Gaza was the son of a Hamas official. The UK media regulator Ofcom have, of course, ruled that recently. Well, an Ofcom investigation into Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, the documentary, of course, has concluded that the programme was materially misleading as it failed to acknowledge that the child narrating the programme was indeed the son of a Hamas government minister.
Morning. You all right? Have you ever wondered what you'd do if your world was destroyed? Could you live in a tent? Raise your baby? Would you help people? Would you try and have some fun? Most important, could you stay alive?
Well, the BBC's Director General has previously apologised, saying there had been a significant failing in relation to accuracy. Ofcom has ordered the BBC to broadcast a prime-time statement about its conclusions. Well, I'm now joined by the former BBC executive producer, David Elstein. David, thank you very much for joining me. Of course, this is a massive embarrassment for the BBC, and they have been dragged, at least through the press over the last couple of years, for uncovered lots of criticism of their reporting of the Israel-Hamas conflict. What should we make of this ruling?
Well, it was inevitable that Ofcom would rule as it did, and almost inevitable that Ofcom would require the BBC to broadcast a formal apology. I mean, the BBC put its hand up to this gross breach of its own procedures, 5 months ago. So the issue that's still left hanging is, how did the BBC's editorial team fail so significantly to conduct a due diligence exercise on such a sensitive subject? I mean, this is important material. filming inside Gaza is not possible for the BBC itself. So you have to have really tight controls over what is filmed, who is doing it, what the ingredients are, who the personnel are. And the BBC simply failed to ask enough questions. Just as bad, the production company knew the boy's father was a Hamas official and declined to tell the BBC. So they're even more responsible than the BBC, but they're not responsible to us. The BBC is.
Of course. And David, it really begs the question, do you believe there's an agenda at the BBC?
The BBC's primary agenda is to try and get things right. Unfortunately, not every single reporter knows enough about the background of the Middle East conflict. The BBC leans over backwards to try and give the Palestinians reasonable airtime, even though the Israeli government is far more effective in terms of its communications. And the problem is the BBC rarely asks the right questions of its interviewees because it doesn't want to get, so to speak, in the middle of the debate. So I wouldn't say that the BBC has an agenda, but the BBC is just weak in its journalism.
I certainly agree on that. 1,500 breaches of their own guidelines that are on this reporting of the Hamas-Israel conflict in Gaza. Yeah. And it says something, perhaps of the quality of the BBC at the bare minimum now, that if we don't think they're biased, I think there's a bias personally inside the BBC, but if there isn't, we can at least perhaps say that the quality is no longer there that the taxpayer, or the licence fee payer, should I say, expects.
There's a big structural issue at the heart of this. The so-called 1,500 breaches, the vast majority of them are in the BBC Arabic service, as alleged by those people who are monitoring its output. Now, the chances of the BBC Arabic service hiring journalists who are unsympathetic to the Palestinian cause are pretty low. So it's a high-risk process anyway. BBC Arabic is not a lot better than, say, Al Jazeera in terms of its objectivity of reporting. And it was a terrible mistake when the BBC rolled the World Service into its news operation, because that is now tainting its domestic news. And there you are quoting the 1,500 number. You certainly wouldn't be able to cite that with in connection with the BBC's domestic coverage, which has many weaknesses and has a lot to be complained about.
David, may I briefly ask you what sort of procedure happens when the broadcaster has to make a prime-time apology? What will that look like?
Well, it will be a very boring caption up on air, read out for about 2.5 minutes. And it will be an embarrassment to the BBC, but an essential item of discipline that Ofcom is obliged to inflict on the BBC and will be obliged to watch it.
Indeed. Well, there we go. Former BBC executive producer there, David Elstein. Thank you so much for joining me and talking us through this story. It does indeed beg the question whether the BBC can recover from this, particularly when they're covering international wars. This is exceptionally important to get right. A BBC spokesman has said this, though. The Ofcom ruling is in line with the findings of Peter Johnston's review that there was a significant failing in the documentary in relation to the BBC's editorial guidelines on accuracy, which reflects Rule 2.2 of Ofcom's broadcasting code. We have apologised for this and we accept Ofcom's decision in full. We will comply with the sanction as soon as the date and wording are finalised. Well, there you have it, everybody. Coming up, we'll bring you the very first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages hot off the press. Oh, and what's happening here, eh? Gary Neville's own supporters of football club he co-owns are not happy. Well, let me give you a clue on what they did there. It involves some flags. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The best place to be across the Mediterranean at the moment is Italy. A lot of fine weather following some wet conditions earlier in the week. That wet weather now moving into Greece, and another spell of rain on the way for parts of Portugal, northwest Spain as well. A damp spell here, but with southwesterly winds, temperatures actually above average. And then this gap in systems through the central part of the Mediterranean. Plenty of sunshine through Italy. Rain clouds clearing into Greece. Very wet indeed for Athens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, low pressure is returning, bringing outbreaks of rain and stronger winds, followed by blustery showers as we go through tomorrow and into the new week. So we lose this area of our high pressure that's moving its way eastwards, replaced by low pressure out to the west. So back to the rest of this evening. The clearest skies and holding on to the driest conditions across eastern areas. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain, heaviest and most persistent, moving in from the west, especially across Northern Ireland and the far southwest into Devon and Cornwall. Otherwise, with the strong winds, the cloud, the outbreaks of rain, it is going to be a mild start to Sunday morning. So having a look at Sunday morning across Scotland, that's where we hold on to some glimmers of brightness first thing across the far north, but out to the west, that's where we're already seeing outbreaks of rain. Now, the heaviest rain is going to be across Northern Ireland, most persistent here, especially to the south and east. That's where there is a yellow Met Office warning, where we could see some localised flooding in places. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain again across western areas, but drier to the southeast of England to start Sunday morning. But that will soon be replaced by cloud and outbreaks of rain as this band of rain pushes its way north and eastward. So as we come into Sunday afternoon, many places seeing a pretty unsettled end to the weekend. But there will be some glimmers of sunshine just coming in to the far southwest of England and Northern Ireland later on in the day. Otherwise, temperatures holding up around 15 or 16 degrees. So through Monday, we hold on to the area of low pressure, some strong winds across the south, but also some blustery showers, heavy and possibly thundery, driest across Scotland, where we'll see some sunshine. We'll hold on to some showers on Tuesday, but generally a bit drier, and then some longer spells of rain for some of us on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong Tonight. Only on GB News, of course. I have got your front pages hot off the press here. Shall we go through them together? The Sun. Andrew Axe's Fergie party. Of course, 66th birthday bash cancelled as crisis over Epstein has grown. The Mail. Andrew told the Met to dig up dirt on Virginia. We were talking about this story earlier on. We'll talk more about that in just a moment because this is a big addition to that story there. The Independent. Ukraine can't beat Russia, warns top British Army chief. The Observer, he lied to me about Epstein. I can't wait to talk to you about this front page. The Mirror, Virginia's revenge on Andrew. The Telegraph, Andrew sought to dig up dirt. The Express, thousands of perverts to be freed from jail early. Fantastic news that, eh? The Sunday Times, spy suspect was stopped with suitcase of cash. Right, let's get the thoughts of my panel here. I am joined by Peter Blexley, Paul Richards and Linda Jubilee. Hello, everybody. Well, I mean, we can't avoid him, can we? We can't avoid him. We're trying to get away from this bloke, and he's just here. He's on all the front pages. So, I mean, we'll have to start with Prince Andrew, won't we? Because, of course, we've got a birthday party being axed. We've got...
I was supposed to go to that.
Well, you really... I'm sure it's going to go...
I've got all the pills, all the powder, everything. I've got a number with it.
The things I love to say, though, my boss would be very angry if I did. The Daily Mail, of course, saying that the Met were told to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre. You know, it doesn't end. However, I'm just going to start just a slight rant on the front page of The Observer, if we can go to that, and we'll stick with that for just a moment, because, of course, the famous interview between Emily Maitlis and Prince Andrew there, as you can see. And as you can see, Emily Maitlis has got a little quote there. She says, "He lied to me about Epstein." Well, with all due respect, he lied to the whole country, Emily. This is not about you. This is not about you, Emily Maitlis. It's about the victims, about Virginia Giuffre. It's about the nation. He's tried to convince otherwise. It's not about us. We don't do the news to make it all about us. We do it to reveal the stories. And I just think this is so telling of the left-wing British press these days. They have to make it all about them. Anyway, Linda, let's move on. You don't have to come about Emily Maitlis if you don't want to. But this whole story, really, and I was saying this earlier to one of our guests, it feels like the royal family should have intervened earlier. Obviously, Andrew knew what he did. I suspect he would have had a bit of a grilling from royal services in security and elsewhere. Perhaps he has withheld it from them too. But I feel like the Crown has acted a little bit late here.
I think they're a decade late and $1 short. I think that the palace has known about this for at least a decade. And in fact, I know someone that was inside on that shoot. And he said what really astonished him was that no one in the palace really knew very much about it going on. They didn't appear to know it was going on, and they didn't appear to want to be in the room in order to make notes or control the narrative or step in when something was going adrift. I mean, that is incredibly unprofessional for a communications department to not be on top of that and to not be in the room. Why that interview was a 5-camera shoot. That's a very big deal in television terms, and there should have been someone from the inside actually monitoring what was going on. And apparently, I think there was some sort of person, I think it might have been Amanda Thirsk who was in there making a few notes. But really, Emily Maitlis is right to say that he lied to us, but I don't think she needed to repeat it just now, because it was blatantly obvious to anyone who watched that interview that he was lying. Yeah. He could see he was lying.
What was the I don't sweat thing? I mean, I don't believe he even went to Pizza Express, frankly, but obviously he says he does. Let's just bring up the front page of the Mail here, because I want to ask Paul about this, because they've got 2 royal bombshells, they say, on the front page of the Mail on Sunday. Bombshell number 1, Epstein set Prince up with second sex abuse victim. And bombshell 2, Andrew told the Met to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre, Paul. I mean... Obviously, we don't know anything about the first royal bombshell there. We'll have to try and we'll open up the Mail on Sunday as soon as we get it. But regardless, there's obviously this probe here now that looks likely to happen as this email reveals he procured private data for a smear campaign against Virginia Giuffre.
Which is morally reprehensible and possibly illegal as well, I would think. I mean, the sex life of the royals throughout history has been pretty murky, let's face it. You know, they're not a family line known for their fidelity to one another. However, he is crossing a line, I think, in terms of depravity and illegality. And I think it ends in one way, which is that he has to be exiled. I'm slightly...
Well, you're going to go a step further then.
Yeah. I'm not a Republican, but I do think the monarchy needs to look carefully at itself and its practices, and William will do that, I think, when he becomes king. But I would say that I think him being stripped of his titles is nothing. Well, what is that? Nothing. He's not allowed to put that on his letterhead anymore. He's not allowed to put that on his calling card. So what?
Yeah.
You know, that's not a punishment, is it? That's just a bit of PR flim-flam. I think far more stringent action has to take place. You know, why is he allowed to live on this enormous estate on the Windsor Great Park? You know, why is he still allowed to to swan around.
He's got a lease there, so legally he's entitled to stay there.
Well, let's change the law then. Let's change the law and kick him out. You know, I mean,
totally agree with you, Paul. Just explain to us why.
Yeah. Well, I think exile, even exile, is not a punishment. But at least it'll get him out of our hair.
Yeah. Peter, listen. I mean, we've this Royal Bombshell One Epstein set up with second sex abuse victims sounds nefarious enough as it is. We can't obviously we haven't seen it, so we'll have to wait till we read that properly. But the other one, we were talking about this earlier. Andrew asking the Met Police to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre. I mean, I think that sounds like a bit of a guilty plea there. But also, if it embroils the Met Police, it's quite a big deal.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that if he did approach an officer, that officer did the right thing. Yeah. In other words, did not research Virginia Giuffre on his behalf, reported it to a senior officer, and that the matter was suitably dealt with. But look, there's an easy solution to this whole Andrew drama. He served in the military, so he must have a little bit of a military pension, right? He's about my age, so he's going to get his old age pension soon. So he's going to have a few quid, all right? He's not going to be rolling it. Get him a 3-bed semi somewhere, send him and Fergie off, give him a family saloon car as well, and just be done with them. Yeah. Bin them off. Yeah. Get rid of them.
Peter, I don't think Fergie would get her wardrobe into a 3-bed semi.
Well, she'll have to slim it down a little bit, won't she?
Is they won't be worth very much, will they? Who wants to wear the disgraced robes of someone else? But I just want to dig into, because the Sunday Telegraph have got a bit more blurb on this here, so we can pull the Sunday Telegraph up. I mean, all the front pages are dominated by Prince Andrew today. A lot of them here talking about this digging up on dirt of Virginia Giuffre. So the Telegraph here is saying the Prince asked his taxpayer-funded bodyguard to investigate Virginia Giuffre and passed him her date of birth and social security number. This is an leaked email. He then told Buckingham Palace aide Ed Perkins, who at the time was Elizabeth II's deputy press secretary, that he had asked one of his personal protection officers to dig up information about Giuffre. Oh, I mean, if this is true, this is really damaging. And not just for Prince Andrew, actually. This is damaging for the whole royal institution, because it would suggest to me, and I'm saying allegedly here because we don't know this is true, but you know, this is what the Telegraph and many other papers are reporting, that if there's people like the Deputy Press Secretary knew. Who else knew? Yeah. And why weren't we told about it sooner? And why did the Palace not take firmer action quicker?
I mean, why... Ed Perkins, as that story says, is a very, very senior member of the comms team. In fact, does it say it's Elizabeth II's private secretary? Private secretary.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he knew about it. I mean, what's the great quote? All that it takes for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. They did nothing to stop this happening. That's very shocking, isn't it?
Do you know what gets me about this story too is that at no point has Andrew expressed any kind of contrition or apology.
The S word, isn't it?
He thinks he's done nothing wrong. It's a sense. I think it's a sort of blend of stupidity and entitlement.
Well, on a positive note, and I announced this on social media earlier today, I now identify as the Duke of York. Right? Okay. Right. I've got over 10,000 men followers on X. Yeah. And
Duke of York, marching up the hill.
Yeah, and I'm trying to bring a bit of dignity to the title and a bit of better standards of behaviour. Yeah. So from here on, you can call me Your Grace if you want, or Peter, or Blex, or Duke. You're allowed to do that. I really don't mind. But yeah, from here on in, I am officially sort of the Duke of York.
Well, I'm behind it. But obviously, on a serious note, there, because we will have to see who gets that title now. Now, this is a title that was...
Were you not listening?
Peter, listen, I'm slightly dubious that you know, King Charles might appoint you that title.
If I want to identify...
It'd be great. I'd love to have a Duke on this panel every week, and I think that would be brilliant news. But the real question is who will get that title, and of course...
He hasn't been stripped of the job, though. He's just not allowed to use the title.
It's for all intents and purposes, it's defunct,
I think, I'm not sure if I'm correct about the protocol here, but I think you need an Act of Parliament to actually take the title off him.
Correct. I mean, I think Parliament's going to have to act.
Well, that would be a good sign to the great British public if that were to happen.
It's 2025.
Yeah.
If people can identify as watermelons and zebras, I can identify as the Duke of York. Thank you very much.
Determined.
All right. Well, coming up, we have a Daily Mirror exclusive from the troubled footballing legend Paul Gascoigne, who claims he has cheated death. I'll reveal all that next. This is Alex Armstrong tonight. His new, obviously joined by the Duke of York on my panel tonight. We'll see you all very shortly.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Park Estate and the anti-litter champion. Great to see you. What made you think of this, Duncan?
I think just the huge amount of litter. I said to the children, when I was their age, we would be able to go from this beautiful estate, which I'm so lucky to live in, to Witham or Chelmsford or Braintree, and you'll never see any litter. And today it's so different. And you know, we're thinking we've got to affect some kind of behavioural change, and the best place to start with that is with young minds. It's so baffling to me that people don't prioritise litter, because if you think about it, all the ills of society that our civic leaders are trying to sort out are characterized by, you know, antisocial behavior, lack of personal responsibility, selfishness, lack of community spirit. And if you toss a plastic bottle or a disused coffee cup or a wrapper out of your window, one is displaying exactly the same characteristics as, you know, we need to resolve all the other bigger antisocial problems.
What reaction are you getting from today's children? Are they a bit astonished about the fact that they shouldn't throw litter around?
Yeah, no, every time you ask the question, has anybody seen anyone littering? Up went 500 hands. Have you ever littered? And up went to sort of 10 very brave little hands.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
I'll go back to your front pages now, and a Gaza story here. Not a Gaza story, a Gaza story. Paul Gascoigne came back from the dead when doctors restarted his heart in rehab. The former England star was admitted to a clinic in Arizona in 2013. Chris Evans, Alan Shearer and Danny Baker rallied around to help him at his lowest point in his life due to his addiction to alcohol. He was induced in a coma for 18 days, if you remember, and had an injection into his heart, which doctors said had kept him alive. Yet rumours of his demise were so widespread that the complete stranger told Gaza, "I thought you were dead," when he arrived back in the UK. Well, I've got my fantastic panel here, as ever. Peter, how well did you might have bumped into Gaza a couple of times.
Yeah, if I may just, and I'll do it briefly, Gaza has had a profound effect on the football industry, a huge effect, because when he cried in 1990 at the World Cup in Italy, the middle classes found football and fell in love with it. Yeah. And Sky then went, there's a market here, and subsequent to that, we are where we are. There are thousands of footballers worth millions and millions of pounds, all due to the fact that Gaza cried.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was at a wedding a few years ago in one of these country house hotels, all very swanky, and Gaza was in the smoking area. Needless to say, I gravitated towards him, and we had a chat, and unfortunately Gaza was drinking. So it wasn't at his best, shall we say. But he still had that glint in his eye, and that kind of charisma had never left him.
Yeah.
But it was a sad situation to see him in a very heavy drinking phase. I think he's better now, and I wish him nothing other than joy and good health.
Do you know, it's actually really strange that, and that's a very good observation, Peter, but how addiction befalls some of the most talented sports stars. So we saw Ricky Hatton, and that was the saddest news from that inquest when it opened. And there's Paul Gascoigne here, and I remember doing a couple of stories myself on George Best when I was at ITV. And it's extraordinary. These people actually as well are naturally talented people that really resonate with the viewing public. There's something about them, as Peter said.
They're real, aren't they? They're authentic.
They're authentic. There is a connection there that moves the needle, and yet they are very, very troubled individuals often.
It's hard, isn't it, Paul? Because you think they have these incredible lives. They go from teenagers to millionaires to superstars. So you can't. They are so famous. Many of them can't walk down the streets at that age.
Well,
and then all of a sudden, your career ends so young because your sporting career is so short.
Well, I met George Best towards the end of his life in Champneys in a health farm, and I mean, he was a rock star, wasn't he? He was like the Beatles in the 60s, and it is a tragic fall. I mean, Gaza, for my generation, probably the best midfielder England ever put on the field. Not only Italia 90, but then, of course, the Euros in 96, where the whole country was behind England. It was just an astonishing moment in that mid-90s, and it is tragic. But if good comes from it, it is drawing attention to addiction issues, mental health issues, bipolar, really, you know, just getting a conversation going, particularly with blokes, to be able to talk about this stuff. I think if some good comes from it at all, it would be that.
Spot on, Paul. And of course, on behalf of GB News, we wish Gaza all the best if he's watching GB News. We love Gaza, and I know all of you are too. Anyway, now lefty-lovey Gary Neville's pushed back against England and Union flags. Lately, he's taken almost none of us by surprise, has it? But earlier today, supporters of Salford City FC, the football club co-owned by Neville, decided they'd get their revenge. They're wearing hoodies reading, "Gary Neville is a traitor, take a watch." Yeah, that's supporters of Salford City FC there. Of course, Gary Neville, taking the flags down off of buildings he owned. Paul, he's a Labour supporter, isn't he? He's a Labour supporter.
He is, and he's done a lot of good. He's done a lot of good works in the community, and Salford FC is obviously a good community club as well. And I think it's a shame people want to run on the pitch and spoil a perfectly good game of football.
Well, Peter,
two wrongs don't make a right. OK, Gary Neville is a fool, but that field of play is for talented, professional athletes. It is not for blokes to go running on. Do not encroach on a field of play ever.
Yeah, it's a criminal offence, isn't it, Linda?
Yeah, it's such a shame that lately, not just this story, but our national game, our beautiful game, is spoilt in this way in any regard at all. A sports field is for, as Peter says, playing the game.
Yeah, it's just become so politicised, hasn't it? We just always talk about the Maccabee football team being banned for coming. It's so political now, isn't it? Listen, a whole load more news to bring you tonight. Of course, we've got the late edition coming up, and I'm telling you, I think the whole royal household could be in serious trouble. Tony Blair's back again, I know. We'll bring you more. Stay tuned after the break.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, low pressure is returning, bringing outbreaks of rain and stronger winds, followed by blustery showers as we go through tomorrow and into the new week. So we lose this area of our high pressure that's moving its way eastwards, replaced by low pressure,
out to the west. So back to the rest of this evening. The clearest skies and holding on to the driest conditions across eastern areas. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain, heaviest and most persistent, moving in from the west, especially across Northern Ireland and the far southwest into Devon and Cornwall. Otherwise, with the strong winds, the outbreaks of rain, it is going to be a mild start to Sunday morning. So having a look at Sunday morning across Scotland, that's where we hold on to some glimmers of brightness first thing across the far north, but out to the west, that's where we're already seeing outbreaks of rain. Now, the heaviest rain is going to be across Northern Ireland, most persistent here, especially to the south and east. That's where there is a yellow Met Office warning, where we could see some localised flooding in places. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain again across western areas, but drier to the southeast of England to start Sunday morning. But that will soon be replaced by cloud and outbreaks of rain as this band of rain pushes its way north and eastward. So as we come into Sunday afternoon, many places seeing a pretty unsettled end to the weekend. But there will be some glimmers of sunshine just coming in to the far southwest of England and Northern Ireland later on in the day. Otherwise, temperatures holding up around 15 or 16 degrees. So through Monday, we hold on to the area of low pressure, some strong winds across the south, but also some blustery showers, heavy and possibly thundery, driest across Scotland, where we'll see some sunshine. We'll hold on to some showers on Tuesday, but generally a bit drier, and then some longer spells of rain for some of us on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, Tony Blair's back again. Can we get rid of this man ever, please? Well, he's calling for an income tax cut, so maybe that's something we can all agree on. Labour is also ripping up its definition of Islamophobia, but is all as it seems? Because I think there's a little bit of misleading headlines here. Oh, of course, Andrew. We can't get away from Prince Andrew, can we? He is all over the front pages, and new allegations are bringing the Met Police and getting them embroiled in it. Kemi Badenoch has said the Prime Minister's been untruthful. Oh, so much to dig into. See you in a minute.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home